mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic. Yeah. All I need is one mic.
Hey everybody, welcome back to One Mic, where I watch shit so you don't have to. And today I'm here to talk about episodes 1, 2, and 3 of the new Hulu series, Pam and Tommy, which is about Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee's sex tape that leaked to the internet in the late 90s. The showrunner here is a guy named, I'm going to look over here, Robert Siegel. He doesn't have a whole lot of credits to his name, but the biggest thing that I saw is that he wrote The Wrestler, which was like that Mickey Rourke comeback movie from, I want to say like the early 2010s, maybe. I don't know. Maybe it was sometime post 2000. It was before he got his role in Iron Man 2. So Iron Man 2 is probably somewhere around 2010. So yeah, maybe we place The Wrestler somewhere in the late 2000s. But he wrote The Wrestler, which was a really good film. But not too many credits to his name. This show is largely based upon an article, which I actually accidentally stumbled upon today. It's a Rolling Stone article from 2014 that really kind of breaks down everything that happened and made it so that this guy who did this carpentry work in Tommy Lee's house was able to get his hands on this tape and get it out there. And you know, I read the article for as long as it took for me to not get spoiled on future episodes of the show. So like I'm reading this and I'm reading it after I watched the show, and it's kind of like the show is almost kind of like a shot for shot kind of like retelling of this article. And you're reading this article and you're just like, okay, I saw that. So like once I got past the point in the article where that goes beyond where these first 3 episodes have gone, I stopped reading it. But yeah, it's largely based on this article. I mean, obviously it's also largely based on reality, but yeah, it's essentially a show about how Pam and Tommy come to have their sex tape stolen by this disgruntled worker and how he gets it out on the internet. And I'm assuming a little bit about how celebrity sex tapes kind of got like a I guess a resurgence in popularity. I don't even want to say a resurgence, just kind of like a surge, because as a character notes in the show, these things they weren't really a big deal before the internet. And then the internet came along and made these things widely and easily accessible. And then this was the one that did it. Like this one got it popping. And then you had Paris Hilton, you had Kim Kardashian, and it kind of it turned into a thing. And so this is kind of like, you know, it's a story about Pamela Anderson and Tommy Lee, but it's also a story about kind of like, I'm assuming, because we haven't really gotten here yet, but I'm assuming and hoping this is where the show is going to go. It's about how the advent of the internet kind of helped boost the popularity of celebrity sex tapes. So talking about these first 3 episodes, there's an inherent problem here that I don't know if the show is going to fix. I'm going to give it a chance to. And I don't really want to say that the show has to fix necessarily. But the problem here for this show is that its main characters are the least interesting characters on the show. Pam and Tommy, played by Lily James and Sebastian Stan, respectively, they both do fine in the role. But it's tough right now in these first 3 episodes to make like rich, entitled, partying, drug-using celebrities someone who I give a fuck about. Like I'm watching this, I'm like, I don't care about these people. Tommy in particular is incredibly fucking obnoxious, which makes it hard to make him out to be a victim. And I'm not going to say that the show is going to make him a victim or that they should, but at the time, right now, in these first 3 episodes, this is a guy who's got his sex tape stolen. In 2022, we are in a place where we feel sympathy for these people, like their private lives being put on the internet. But right now, watching this, it's hard for me to feel bad for this guy. He's a fucking piece of shit. So it's like, and he's not an interesting piece of shit, by the way. He feels like a caricature of every fucking like over-the-top Hollywood celebrity that you would see in any kind of movie. And granted, he's probably really like that. And a lot of these people are really like that, but these are not endearing people. These are not even interesting people. Like if you look at people like on Succession or something like that, you might go, oh, I don't like these characters are unlikable, but you can't say that they're not interesting. That's for damn sure. You can't say they're not interesting. You might not like them, but you can't say that. And I feel like watching Pam and Tommy is far and away the least interesting time I have watching this show. Episode 2 spends the majority, actually all of the episode, focusing on Pam and Tommy, and it's by far the least interesting episode of the 3. Like 1 and 3 were both really interesting to me. Episode 2, I wanted to turn it off. I'm like, this is not like it doesn't get any juices flowing in me to see constantly, like, over and over some shit that I've seen 8 million times in a bunch of other shows and movies, which is, rich entitled celebrities doing drugs, fucking, getting drunk, partying. Like, okay, yeah, oh wow, I've never seen this before. Wow, this is entrancing. Like, no, it's fucking boring. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't find them interesting at all. I don't find them sympathetic. I don't find them likable. They're kind of trying to do something with Pamela to where they're making her into like they're trying to make her sympathetic, like a sympathetic kind of character. Because, like, I'm gonna go on a brief side tangent here. This is one of the first things where, and I'm getting to that age where television shows and documentaries are starting to be based upon things that I remember. Like a lot of the stuff, like documentary stuff, be things that I don't know about or that happened when I was too young to remember, before I was born. But like the American Crime Story, the impeachment thing on Bill Clinton, like there's people who are probably like 30 years old watching that, like, wow, I can't believe this fucking happened. Like, this is what it was like. And I'm watching it like, yeah, okay, yeah, I remember all this. And that's how I feel about this. I'm watching this and I'm like, I wasn't a kid for this. Like, I remember all of this stuff. And this is one of the first things, and the two things I think of are American Crime Story and this. It's weird to watch something that I remember. And I remember Pamela Anderson on Baywatch. I remember Pamela Anderson coming out that fucking barbed wire movie, which they talk about in this show, by the way. And I just remember her as just, hey, it's the super fucking hot fake tits Pamela Anderson. Cool. And there's Tommy Lee. He's the drummer for Motley Crue. Like, and I remember these people, but that's all I know them as. The show's not doing much to make Tommy Lee sympathetic at all. Like, all they're doing is make you hate him even more. But they're trying to make Pamela sympathetic by showing her having an enjoyment of finer films, finer art films. Of being someone who wants to get an opportunity to show how well she can act. There's one of the only good, I think, moments, one of the few moments that is enjoyable in episode 2 is we see her trying to like work through a monologue that her character is supposed to have on Baywatch, and then she gets on set and they cut the monologue out. And like that's the kind of stuff that they're doing to try to make Pam kind of like a little bit more sympathetic. And I'm kind of getting there, but it's not really, I don't know, it's not really hitting just yet. What they need to do, and what I actually expect them to do, is make it so that we see how their private lives being put out there, how that impacted them privately. That's what I'm interested in, and that's what I want to see. I don't care about this party and shit. But like I said, you got to have that there so that you can see what these people were like before this tape happened and then what they're like after it. So that's why I'm kind of still giving the show a chance, because like I feel like, it has potential here. But the main reason I'm still giving it a chance is because I find Seth Rogen's character, I believe his name is Rand Gautier, to be incredibly interesting. And that could just be because I'm one of those people who I'm not enamored with celebrities, like every fucking thing. Like, oh, fucking, I don't know, Jessica Biel farted on Sunset. Like, oh, let's get fucking pictures and put articles on TMZ. Like, I don't give a fuck about celebrities. I don't give a fuck about what they ate, where they went, who they fuck, how many kids they have, what the kids look like. I don't care about seeing the pictures. None of that shit. They are not special to me other than the entertainment that they provide me. Who they are as a person and all that kind of shit, and what they do in their spare time doesn't interest me. But what does interest me is when they treat people like shit, and then that comes back around, and that idea of comeuppance. Seth Rogen's character refers to it as karma. I refer to it as getting what you got coming to you for what you did, consequences. And a lot of people, they get famous, they get rich, they become celebrities, and they feel like they can talk to anybody any old kind of way. And I'm a huge proponent of humbling people like that and letting them know, like, just because you're good at acting or you're good at basketball doesn't mean I won't fuck you up. Like that's the kind of energy that I feel like some of these people should get when they act this way. And that's what makes Seth Rogen's character so interesting. You know, he's treated like shit by Tommy Lee in the first episode. Like I said, I don't want to give away too many spoilers here, but you know, this whole tape thing is an act of vengeance. You know, he's treated like shit, and I'm not gonna go into details how or in what manner, but he decides, you know, I'm gonna get some revenge on this guy. And not only that, but we also get in the course of episodes 1 and 3 a look into his past and his home life and his personal life that kind of helps paint a picture of who is the guy that has the straw that breaks the camel's back comes from Tommy Lee. Like, who is the guy that has dealt with, you know, like I said, not going to spoil it, but has dealt with A, B, C, D, X, Y, Z. And now Tommy Lee comes along and thinks this is just another Joe Blow who I'm going to treat like shit and talk to any old kind of way. And then that guy goes, that's it. This is enough. I've had enough. I'm going to come back now. You know, same kind of thing like Wall Street, shit like that. What's the other? Actually, Wall Street's not even the one I'm talking about. The other movie, Falling Down. You know, like those sorts of things. Like how is that person built? How are they formed? And I found that aspect of this show to be great. Like I really like episode 1 and I really like episode 3, and that's because they largely focus on Seth Rogen's character. So if you take a continued kind of like learning more about Seth Rogen's character, how he ends up getting this tape distributed, because like at the end of episode 3, the tape hasn't even hit the net yet. So we're still kind of like in the working stages here. Tape hasn't hit the net yet. So where do we go with him? And then how do we tie this in to making Pam and Tommy a little bit more sympathetic, a little bit more relatable, you know, showing like, okay, now that this is out, this is how the people who we saw being completely obnoxious and unlikable in episode 2, this is the real life impact that this has had on these real people when they actually have to get off of drugs and come to grips with the fact that their entire fucking private life is on the internet. So that's kind of where I'm at with this. Like I feel this show really gives me Ryan Murphy show kind of vibes. Like it feels like another season of like American Crime Story, and I don't like Ryan Murphy shows, even when he's trying to make them good. Like American Horror Story I fuck with for maybe like the first 3-4 seasons, and then I'm like, okay, this shit is not good anymore. Then we got the serious stuff like the American Crime Story, and even that felt kind of like, I don't know, it almost felt like a satire. Like I don't know, it was weird. Like I think I only watched the first episode of the impeachment one. I watched the whole OJ one, that one was straight, but the Monica Lewinsky impeachment one, I watched the first episode, maybe the second, and I'm just like, this feels like it's trying to be too goofy. I'm not here for this. So Ryan Murphy stuff doesn't really sit well with me, which is why this show also has me kind of like, because there's another guy who I think wrote a couple of episodes for this show, who also wrote some episodes from the OJ series. So you can kind of get the vibes of like a Ryan Murphy kind of thing. But let's see, what else do I want to talk about here? So I talked about the challenge of making Tommy and Pam likable. I do think that Lily James and Sebastian Stan have done a good job so far. You know, Sebastian Stan, I would think it would be hard to see him as someone other than Bucky Barnes, since that's now his most notable role. But you know, he steps into Tommy Lee very well. Lily James, virtually unrecognizable. I'm not even gonna say she is unrecognizable. If I didn't already know it was Lily James, I would not have watched that and been like, oh, I think that's Lily James. Nope, doesn't look anything. It looks just like Pamela Anderson. And I don't think Lily James looks like Pamela Anderson. So whoever's doing her makeup and hair and shit, they're doing an incredible fucking job. They've also clearly outfitted her with some fake tits to match Pamela Anderson as well. And they've also clearly outfitted Sebastian Stan with a fake dick to make him Tommy Lee. And I will say this, I'm not going to spoil it, but there is a scene in episode 2 with Tommy Lee that, in terms of how over the top and ludicrous it is, and just like, you've never seen anything like this on television before. It's like some shit that would be in like an animated show. Like I could see this in like Big Mouth, which ironically, in the scene that I'm talking about, the voice that we hear in this scene is the voice of, I forget his name. I think it's Jason something, and he has like a really difficult to pronounce last name. But he plays, what's his name on Big Mouth? I can't remember. The one who fucks a pillow. Plays him on Big Mouth. He played Rafi on in the League. It's his voice. So that should be enough right there to tell you that if they wanted to use his voice, they were doing some crazy shit. So I will say that is actually I think there was a second thing in episode 2 that I liked as well. There was a scene where after we see them going all crazy in Mexico or whatnot, they have an awkward conversation on an airplane coming back that kind of lets you know that they don't really know each other. And I thought that was a pretty good scene. A couple of other things I want to talk about that were pros. Aside from Seth Rogen, we see Nick Offerman in this as a character named Milty. Milty, I think, is a really interesting character. Nick Offerman's always entertaining when he's around. And also with Seth, too. Seth, they gave his character so many layers. Like, I said, like, what makes this guy. But, like, they also introduce an ex-wife of his, and I'm not going to go into too much detail about the ex-wife because I think the dynamic of him and the ex-wife is really interesting too. And she, by the way, is played by Taylor Schilling, who most people know as Piper from Orange is the New Black. But they have an interesting dynamic as well. And if you're new to my channel and this is the first time you've ever seen me talk about a show, I use the word interesting a lot. And I it's not because I lack a vocabulary, because if you watch my channel, you'll also see that that's not true. But it's because I think that being interesting is the most important thing about a television show or a film. Like, why do I care? Why should I watch this? And so I'll frequently say this is interesting or this is not interesting, because I think that's what's important for a show. But Nick Offerman it looks like he's gonna be great in this. Andrew Dice Clay pops up in episode 3. I have not seen Andrew Dice Clay. It was weird. It's like, okay, I feel like I haven't seen Andrew Dice Clay since this sex tape was in the news. Like, I don't know where Andrew Dice Clay has been, but pretty cool to see him. Let's see. Yeah, that's actually all I have. So I'm going to watch episode 4 and kind of see where the show is going from there. I don't know if this is something going to cover all 8 episodes, just because I feel like it's teetering on watchability. Like, the Seth Rogen stuff is really great, and if they could tie that in with the Pam and Tommy stuff and then make them a little bit more interesting but less obnoxious, or just less obnoxious, then this show can kind of really come around. And I'd also like to see some kind of like commentary on like, hey, this internet thing just came around. Let's kind of showcase the internet's role almost as like an additional character in this whole story. Like, you got Pam and Tommy with the sex tape, you got Seth Rogen's character, but then I'd also kind of like the internet to be a character and see what they can do with that. So I'm going to give it a chance to kind of play around with some of those things, some of those concepts, and then we'll see if I'll continue to cover this. It's 8 episodes. Like I said, I'm covering the first 3 right now. I'll definitely hop back on here and cover episode 4 next week. And then at that point, it's probably when I'll make a decision. Like, am I going to cover the rest of them, or am I going to just say, this one's not worth my time? So we'll see. But until next week, peace.